Hey, District 2 sports fans, it's Gregory here, and I want to tell you about our new sponsorship here. If you're looking to make your business stand out, you've got to check out Chaos Cartel Company. They specialize in custom shirts, hats, tumblers, banners, and so much more. And the best part, there's no minimum order. And their pricing is amazing. I should know because we have a few shirts from them. Whether you're a small business or just looking to get some cool merch, Chaos Cartel Company is here to help. They love working with other businesses to bring your brand to life. If you want to get started, give them a call at 434-489-6123 or shoot them an email at chaoscartel1, and that's the number 1, at gmail.com. Chaos Cartel Company, making your business look good, one custom piece at a time.
You are now listening to the District 2 Sports Podcast, available on all your favorite music apps. Like and subscribe.
All right, so this is District 2 Sports Podcast, and we are doing a Central Virginia high school football season preview. We will have Coach Deloach there at Altavista going first, then Coach Bradley at Heritage, and Coach JT Cruz at Jefferson Forest. Altavista, you will be on the road up at Central Lynchburg. A great time listening to episode on that trip up there. Jefferson Forest, we will actually be at the home game there against Gretna. We'll be on the sidelines doing a Sights and Sounds video. So if you see us, come talk to us. We'd love to talk to the fans, and hopefully we'll get to talk to the coaches and players after the game as well. And then Heritage, I guess Coach Bradley will probably be doing some scouting this weekend as they don't open up to the season until I believe September 5th on the road there in West Virginia. But yeah, we want to do a Central Virginia preview, and we hope you enjoy this. And we'll look to do some more Danville and Roanoke and Lynchburg interviews. So here is Coach Deloach leading off.
All right, so District 2 Sports Podcast, and we're continuing our high school football season preview. It's night. We hit up 29 North, and we're joined by the Altavista Colonels head ball coach, Coach Matt Deloach. Coach, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good, good.
Doing great.
This is season number 3?
Yes, sir.
I guess you can't complain about, is it 22 wins in the first 2 years there at Altavista?
Yeah, we've been fortunate enough to be able to be successful. I know, coming in, I guess, wasn't the same, but some of the stuff that we implemented was very simple. Our offense is a very simple scheme. Our defense is very simple. I think just getting these guys flying around, I think has a lot to do with that. We've got great kids. They're great in the building, and, they're obviously great on the football field as well. No, it's been fun. We've been blessed for sure.
Before we get too much into the Altavista Colonels, I did want to talk about your background into the game of football. You're from Charlotte, but moved up to the Lynchburg area as a kid, I think, and then played at Heritage and Jefferson Forest. Played a little quarterback from what I understood, and then kind of walked on there at Liberty University to do some long snapping. So if you can talk about your background into the game of football.
Yeah, I didn't really get involved in football until I was in high school. I played baseball most of my life. My grandfather was a good baseball player in Tennessee, in the eastern part of Tennessee. So, I kind of stuck with that since that's what he did. And then moved up this way. A lot of my friends were playing football, so that's when I got involved. Played at Heritage, played at Jefferson Forest High School, walked on. It's funny. I actually got fired as a long snapper my freshman year. And whoever the coach was, I can't remember who it was. And he was like, you're not a long snapper. Then all of a sudden I'm playing long snapper in college. So it's kind of an interesting journey. But yeah, I guess, playing journey, and I was competitive. I guess it's kind of the same way that I am as a football coach. That's kind of how I was as a player as well. So, but once again, surrounded by good guys, great teammates. So I definitely enjoyed it.
Any fond memories or games there at Liberty that you remember while you were there?
No, that was the 1 in 10 years. So you talking about LU? Yeah, that was the 1 in 10 years. So probably not very many of those. Yeah. No, and they brought a guy in from Florida A&M. This dude was huge. And I mean, and I was decent. And this guy started slinging him back there. And I'm like, yeah. So, I only played 1 year. But, it was a solid year. But, I saw some legit competition. Even then, they struggled, but it's still Division I football. And, week in and week out, you got guys that know exactly what they're doing. So it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Well, you've been at Altavista for a few years. We talked about this, I guess, as an assistant. You did some track and field or indoor track and field as well. What's kept you around the Altavista community?
Yeah, got here. I came here from Appomattox. And it's funny, me being from Charlotte, we would go back home, and Altavista was really a passerby town. We had to go past it to get to Charlotte. So I never envisioned myself, coaching here, much less now, I live here. The community is great. There's incredible people here, and that's the thing. And it's funny, once you start winning, you can kind of see a lot of people love their football here. So I guess I got to keep winning in order for that to happen. But, like I said, this community is incredible. The school is incredible. I mean, we've got probably one of the best athletic directors, there is, and she supports me in pretty much anything and everything that I do. It's funny. I met my wife on the sideline. So she's a physical therapist. She runs the clinic, Rehab Associates. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before. It's a physical therapy clinic. She was on our sideline, and how in the world, she liked me because I like to yell. If you've ever seen any of our games, and she was probably at first going like, "Who in the world is this guy?" But we're married. We've got a kid, and we've got another kid on the way. So I guess something worked. But no, this community is definitely great. It's been great to us, and it's been great to me as a coach as well.
I didn't know if Devin wanted to say anything about that. He's also a physical therapist as well.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. I'm a full-time podcaster and just do a little bit of physical therapy on the side. No, just kidding. Opposite way around, but yeah, absolutely. Very familiar with Rehab Associates. Good company to work for, that's for sure.
No, it's solid. And, it's funny, our quarterback, this past year, he was a sophomore, strong kid, big kid, and this is the type of person that she is. We've got doctors on our sideline and this and that. And he comes off the field and he's hurt. And, she said something to him that a football coach would say to their kid, stop being, and he looked at her and he was like, "Yes, ma'am." And and then he went out and had one of the best games, he's ever had. So it's great to have her on our sideline. It's great to have her on my team. It's been a great run.
Coach, looking at the past couple seasons, I think the first season you go 10-4. This is according to Max Prep, so it could be definitely wrong, but 10-4, state semifinal again, or state semifinal game. And then last year you go, I think 12-1, also make it to the state semifinal. Just make your thoughts on last year. You beat Gretna, a rival, of course, so that's a great win. They're up and coming as well. You took it to my Cavaliers and Devin's Wildcats last year, so thank you for that, I guess. But yeah, just want to get your thoughts on last year's team.
Yeah, it's funny. This just got brought up after our scrimmage. I think I tried to coach this team like last year's team, and I can't do that. And not saying that we're going to lower any kind of standards. The standards will always be high. That was a different group. They were with me the first year, and then obviously with me with the second year. And they bought into the system that we put in place. And these guys, they just grinded. We had a back, LaDainian Stone. I don't know if you followed him or knew who he was. I think everybody knew who he was. And he was the offense that we put together pretty much highlighted him. But I will say, we found a hidden gem with our quarterback because we read every play. I know a lot of coaches say that they read every play. We honestly do. And the way we do it is we kind of pretty much make the read easy for our quarterback. With Cooper, taking over our offense week 2 full time when we played George Wythe, it really got us going. So that was a fun group. They love playing football. They love playing with each other. I think the locker room was more enjoyable for me, just because those guys, they definitely enjoyed each other's presence. We kind of had you talk about family, a lot of coaches talk about family and culture and a brotherhood. That it was representative of that last year's team. And I was honestly blessed to be able to be around young men like that. We've got 2 of the guys are in college now. And, having young men like that, in my life to help shaped me as a coach as well. I've definitely been blessed.
Coach, I just want to bring up, it's probably a sore subject, not for you at all, but for a couple of these podcasters that are joining me tonight. Sometimes, they can't see the trees for the forest, and, they don't see what single A football is all about sometimes, and know the importance, and just realize, and the kind of question I'm trying to get around to is, I mean, does your talent dictate your philosophy, or vice versa? Do you dictate to your talent what you're going to do? I mean, is this, Altavista in my book over the years that I've known Altavista High School has been 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And I know last year was probably more like 7 yards in a cloud of dust. So just trying to figure out if that's something that you, implement every year.
And you're talking about scheme, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I called the offense for Don Rice when I was at Jefferson Forest High School. I don't know if you know that name. And I'm a flex bone guy. Like I we went to some clinics, and, I really fell in love with the flex bone. And, that's the offense that I love. And then now we're running a pistol power offense. So, I saw what we had, what we didn't have. I knew we needed to go simple when it came to offense, simple but effective. And, especially, and then, you go into the defensive side of the ball. I've been an I-man front guy for, quite some time, but we have speed. We have speed in every area, every facet of the game. So we pretty much put speed, at our defensive ends. We put it at our nose tackle. We obviously put it at our DBs, put it at our outside linebackers. So, just let these guys have fun and play and do what they do best. Just like you said, it's been ground and pound for Altavista for quite some time. Last year and in this year as well. But we got some guys, as soon as they break into the open, you're not going to catch them. We don't have the bruiser like we had with LaDainian, but we've got a lot of scat guys, and we've got a lot of quick shift guys. It's year to year. You really it's like this. I was looking at our JV. And I'm like, man, can we make this kid a tight end? Can we shift him? Because, we run 2 tight set. And then I was like, we got more receivers. No, we're going to go to a more of a spread look on our JV, but run the same things that we run on our varsity. So, we're going to adapt to what we have, and I think the kids enjoy that as well. Because if I take a receiver that wants nothing to do with, what's going on in the box, he might not be playing for me long. So.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm not even pretend that I know the numbers, but are you the coach that, if he's a 9th grader, he's going to play, or is he definitely a JV player? Is that kind of way you look at it, or you going to put this guy where he belongs?
Oh yeah. So we had a kid last year. One of our guys got the defensive player of the year. His name was RJ Slayton. He was a sophomore, and he got it. And I'm not going to say the kid was talented. He was 100% talented. But we had another kid on the other side of the football. LaDainian Stone was our outside backer. So they wanted nothing to do with him. But not knowing that this kid right here was legit as well, and played well. But we had another kid inside of him, Khalil Clark. I don't know if you heard that name. He was a freshman, a man. He's an absolute man, and obviously he was not going to do anything on JV. He was not going to help us out on JV. He would have destroyed, individuals on JV, but not what we needed. It's if I feel like a kid is ready, mentally ready to go, he'll obviously play. I'm not the kind of coach that says, hey, you got to wait your turn. I've done that many a times as a coordinator, played a freshman over a senior. Single A is different. It's a lot of times it's by necessity, but what we've done here, we've got 47 varsity players, 9th through 12th graders on a single A school. And, that's pretty dang good. I think we're going to be able to run practices efficiently, and then get some guys some good looks. But no, I'd play a freshman if I felt like he was ready in a heartbeat.
what is it about that area that you can keep kids coming out? I mean, is it just the tradition? I mean, it just seems like you can find kids in that area that want to play. I mean, not only football, but basketball and baseball. I mean, Devin
Yeah.
and Gregory both played basketball and at Chatham and Dan River. And wow, I mean, that program is just, upstanding in all sports, it seems like. So what's the secret up there?
Yes, I agree. It is. It's interesting. I came from, it's funny, when I went from JF to Appomattox, and then the first game that we played was at Buckingham. And I had never played at anything like everything that I've ever played at. Mostly had turf. They had one of the nice press boxes around, and then we go to Buckingham, and I'm like, yeah, I just hopped into a time machine. I mean, honestly, and I was like, what is this? But then I started kind of noticing. I was like, man, there's some legit talent here. And then I came to Altavista, and I'm from a big city, but Altavista is interesting. It's rural, but it has some like kind of not urban vibes, but it kind of has that. It's kind of a chip on its shoulder kind of a town, which I love, and no different than Dan River, and no different than Gretna, no different than Chatham. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but we need to work on is size. We've got a lot of speed. We've got a lot of athletes. We've got a lot of football players. We just got we hit the weight room a lot. That's one of our big emphasis. Yeah, you're right. I can't really put my finger on it, but it's an interesting area. Kind of loaded with talent.
While I'm dominating the conversation and letting these two sit back, I might as well hit you with one more. And we kind of talked about this or you said a few things about it a few moments ago about that schedule. And one of the things that I've been impressed upon by Altavista themselves and some of the other single A schools is y'all will lace it up against anyone. I mean, it just seems like, it doesn't matter what class it is. You will lace it up and line up against anyone. And I think that's it's tremendous respect for you guys for doing that. And, I'm looking forward to this Lord Botetourt game this year.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. We have yet to win the game that we need to win. And I'm not going to put any names out there. I'm not going to throw any shade. That's just not who I am. But we've got to play these teams. We have to. It's not even a question of if it's a question we have to. We must. Just because it's going to battle test these guys because they're not going to. Their first really test, and not a slam on anybody, but their first real test was, when we got deep in the playoffs. And then at that point, man, they kind of got punched in because they were so used to being the guy that punched people in the mouth. And then all of a sudden, we punched somebody in the mouth and they kind of took it and smiled. It was different. It kind of shook our kids just a little bit. Yeah, the Botetourt game, it's funny. We go to camp with Botetourt at Ferrum. So, and Coach Harless, he knows my mentor, Don Rice. And he was the first year he was like, yeah, we need to play. And I was like, and then, this past year I finally, gave in. But the thing about it is it's going to be a great game. It's two very similar programs, with just like you talked about tradition, but also with style of football. It's guys that are going to get after it, that enjoy the game and, they're going to fly around. So it's going to be a good game.
Well, Coach, I want to ask, we kind of talked about the talent a little bit earlier and, how you guys kind of, basically littered the whole, all state, 1A team that they released last year. Obviously you're losing guys like Braylon Smith and Stone, but you have younger guys who are also on that list, Jacorian Davis, Jamari Slayton, Christian Garvin, RJ Slayton, who you talked about, and then of course Khalil Clark, who just as a freshman, second team all state. So, how much of a luxury is it that these guys who were key contributors for you last year now have another year of experience under their belt? Obviously, they went very far last year, and then who are some other guys that can kind of step up for you this year?
Yeah, it's with Jamari, Christian, Jacorian, those guys, they've been doing it, since they were sophomores. They've been on our defensive backfield. So they know the deal, from the jump. I think they realize that now, they kind of look around, just like you said, hey, Braylon's not here. Hey, LaDanian's not here. TJ Robinson's not here. guys that were really stalwarts, on both sides of the football. Yeah. And then they got to be like, hey, it's me. I'm the guy. Now I've got to step up. But like I said, man, I really do. I've got a different personality when it comes to football, a very different personality. We, and this is like this is as legit as I can be. We go 45 minutes total, and we go Monday through Thursday in the summer. We go 45 minutes total of football, of actual install of football. We lift, we do leadership, where we kind of, we go through a book study. We kind of teach their minds, and then we do a lot of conditioning, a lot of speed training. So we get their bodies ready, to take the punishment that they know that they're going to take later on in the year. Now it's early on in the year, and then hopefully later on in the year. So, having those guys just understand, the what we've put in place, the way that we go about it is great, and we've got some legit dudes, with Christian, he switched to running back last year, and, he looks great. He's got a great first move, a great, cut inside and outside. Jacorion is capable of breaking it anytime he touches the football. And that's at kick return, that's at running back. If you put him in space as a receiver, he's capable. Jamari, like I said, he's on the defensive side of the ball. That's what he does, and he leads our defense. And that's another thing I was talking about. Simple. I don't call anything on defense. Jamari calls our coverages. I don't mess with it, because I want those guys to have that, be more of a cerebral, football player when it comes to breaking down what teams are trying to do to us. Cooper Brooks, he's going to be one that's going to step up. Jontez Lee is a sophomore. You haven't heard that name yet, but you will. You will. His favorite player is Tyreek Hill, and he plays like Tyreek Hill. So he's a sophomore. He's going to be pretty much electric in what we're trying to do with our offense. I won't tell you the plays that we're installing now. So, but people will see it, and I hope they do, man. These guys love the game. They want to have fun, and I want them to have fun doing it. I know it's not necessarily fun to see, like what you said, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but it's fun to win. So, and
listen,
we do that very well.
I don't want to throw shade on anybody, because I'm the kind of guy that feels like if you've got the team or a team to compete, you can compete on any level, and me and Devin happened to take in the I think it was the 5A state championship at Liberty this past year with Verina and oh my God, Phoebus, because Phoebus won their fourth straight, I believe it was.
No, it was four. Was the four?
I think it, because they had all jackets that had three-peat, and I said they're gonna have to change their jackets now because it had four-peat now. I think that's right. I might be wrong. It was either the third or fourth. But we watched a man game that game. But the question I want to ask you right now is, what is the stigma against single A football? And like I said, if you got the team, you can play against anybody. So I'm just trying to figure out where that stigma comes from. I mean, it's almost like sometimes they treat single A football like 7-man football out in Colorado or something to that effect. I'm just trying to figure this thing out.
Yeah, I would love for them to watch Essex play any of their games. Honestly, but go and watch Essex play any of their games. What Todd Jones is doing over there at the beach, I mean, it was a mirror. Like when we saw them the first year, my first year here. We went up to Essex. When we saw them, I mean, honestly, obviously they were an established program, but it was a mirror. It was a mirror of what we were trying to do. It's a chip. Like, so when you see a lot of those same teams are always there, it's a chip on your shoulder. And also I would love for somebody to bring up some old tapes of this school, Altavista. And, we walk past those pictures, every day when we're in here, and I look at those teams. And, I coached in the Seminole for most of my career. I bet you those teams could have played against those teams in the Seminole. And I'm talking about probably did some damage to those teams in the Seminole. And that's no disrespect to the Seminole. And, yeah, it is. It's I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of had that as well. I came here and I'm thinking, oh, okay, so this is single A. This is different football. This is going to be lesser football. But I'm telling you, man, some of the guys like LaDainian Stone, who we had last year, that dude could have smoked some teams, and he was playing single A football. Yeah, there's no reason why anybody should have that. If you're a true football coach and you really enjoy this game and you're doing it for the right reasons, that these kids, they need your drive, especially with a lot of things that we do, to get them to that level. We're about to go play legit. So we're going to play Central Lunenburg. That's a 2A school. We're playing Riverheads. That's a 1A school. Botetourt, that's a 3A school. And Blacksburg, that's a 4A school. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4. And guess what? We're gonna strap it up and we're gonna go. I mean, because that's what our team is built to do. So,
well, I was kind of making sure that some people on this podcast understood how Big G had Altavista in the top 10 of the District 2 Sports Podcast, a poll for each week. So I just wanted to make sure I was getting some traction here. I was you were helping plead my case. So thank you, Coach.
I tell you, I don't think anybody like that first year. I think, when we played Appomattox and it was 56-16, I think that's when really people were kind of going like, oh, wait a second. And I still, even last year, I think people were still kind of going, they'll lose, and this, and then we were winning. And then, I still don't think they completely are sold, which is fine. I'm good with that.
Coach, be aware. He'll turn you in a second.
I was hurt as anybody was in that last law. I was hurt. I thought we had a state championship coming your way. That's what I thought.
I appreciate that.
Coach, we talked to Brett a couple weeks ago, but I want to talk to you about that too. You've been with that rivalry for a few years now. You guys have kind of swapped wins back and forth the last couple of years, home and away. If you could talk about what it means to be part of that rivalry and what that means to the community as well.
Sean, you spoke to Sean Miller. I mean, he's awesome. I love Sean. What he's doing with that program is incredible. And that's the thing. I realized very quick, that it's incredible to win. I enjoy winning. That's the reason why we do it. But we want to build better men. Especially with the state of what our world kind of looks like. They need to know that we have their backs and that we love them. And Sean, I can definitely see that in Sean, with what he's doing with that program. And, but the thing about it is, these right here, especially with our guys, so we don't allow these right here. We don't allow our guys to have their cell phones in the locker room. We keep them pretty much away from that. But then when they get on them and it's already coming, like, it's a rivalry, but, back in the day when there was rivalries, you went to their stadium, you put like toothpicks on their field or something like that. Now the rivalries, man, they're sending these, it's a Snapchat and it's this, that, and it could get ugly, man, quick. But that last game, with this past one, I think it was the first time that we had beat Gretna at home since '96. Was that the stat? I think that was the stat, which is crazy to me. But the thing about it is I think they realize, because it was always a stigma, where it's just like, oh, it's Gretna, we're always second best to Gretna, but it's as soon as the first snap, man, we punched back, and then I think they were like, okay, we're good. We can push forward. But it's an incredible rivalry. I mean, and I really didn't really get to really enjoy it until these past 2 years, to be honest with you. And it's been fun. We had this stadium was packed. It was packed, and it's going to be packed. It's the last game of the season this coming year. So, it's going to be a lot of people at Gretna.
While you're saying, about your stadium being packed and stuff like that, what does it mean to you to have the following that you do? I mean, I'm not trying to compare Altavista and Hoosiers by no means, but I see your guys pulling out in the bus, and then the guys, the fans following you along to your away games and stuff like that. And reason why I'm saying something about this is I'm a GW guy, so I hope I can say this and not get murdered or anything like that. But I went to what I thought was going to be a top ranked football game in the playoffs, GW versus Salem at George Washington High School. And I guess I might have been the only fan there because there was nobody in the stands for GW. I mean, it was it broke my heart. It really did to see something like that. Even though I had to be, mutual for the game and cover it for our podcast. But, when you look over and see the visiting stands filled basically, and then you look at the home side and you're the number one ranked team in the region, something's wrong there. So I just think that you guys are on the right path, and your fans, the following is awesome in my book.
Yeah. I bet you Salem brought like 3,000 people. Oh yeah. Yeah, when I was at Forest, Navy Jones senior year, and I'm up at the box, and I just keep seeing Salem people pile in, and I'm like, there has got to be 5,000 people at this game from Salem, and I mean and then where our fans are trying to yell, but Salem's fans are overtaking our fans, and I was like, yeah. So it's for us, we've got an incredible following. We've got incredible fans. Like I said, this community, especially if you inject the football program back into it, they're gonna reciprocate. They're gonna come and they're gonna show their support. And like I said, our guys are having fun doing it. And it's been fun to watch. I've got the best seat in the house to see a lot of our playmakers make plays, and the fans as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw or came to that Essex game. I mean, that was probably the most people I've seen at a game in a long time. I mean, it was packed, and that's the way it should be. I mean, honestly, especially for these kids, in a small town, that should be the event of the weekend, a high school football game.
Coach, I want to talk. Oh, go ahead, Devin.
So, Coach, I just want to add one more on my end, but just want to ask, what are the keys to success in this upcoming year? I mean, what is it going to take to, to reach the state playoffs and hopefully get to that last game of the season?
Anybody like the movie Miracle? So, we showed them a clip, and, it was funny. I had a public speaking class at Liberty, and my final we had to give a speech, and I gave the Herb Brooks speech, at the end of the where they're about to go play the Russians. And there was like some hockey guys in my classes, and they was like standing up like, man, let's go play some hockey, And so I played that speech. This was during one of our summer practices. And, at the end of it, he talks about, like at the end of the movie, he talks about believe. That's what he said. That was like what he had left. He said, believe. And I think these guys have got to understand they need to believe and know that they are doing what they are doing is for a reason. How they are going about it, there's a reason for it. Why are we scheduling, Riverheads? Why are we scheduling Botetourt? Why are we scheduling Blacksburg? Because we have to. It's not of where, hey, we're Altavista, we're going to schedule anybody and everybody. Give us a 5A school. I'm not saying that, but it's schools that I think that are going to give our guys the competition that they need to win the game that they have not won yet. That's the thing about this thing is we're fortunate, not fortunate, because, I wish we were on the other side of it, but we're fortunate to lose to the same team in the same week, 2 years in a row. So now we can really see and look back and say, well, this is what we need to change. And I've been a mindset guy since I got here. The talent was always here. These kids are talented. They're incredible kids. They respect pretty much anything and everything that you want to do. It's just you got to have that mindset. When somebody is like Buffalo Gap, if you even watch that game, that was the first team that really gave us a punch right in our mouth. And at first, you kind of saw the guys were kind of like, wait a second. And then the grit came in. We talk about cultivating the grit and growing that. It's going to have to come from that. It's not football. It's not what we're doing scheme-wise. It's not the plays that we're installing. We haven't installed 2 of our series as of yet, and we've got a benefit game on Friday. It's not about that. It's about us cultivating the grit that it's going to take to push us past. And it's hard. It's hard. It's a long season. We've played 2 long seasons in a row. But I hope that it's been fun for these guys, and hopefully they see the benefits of what we're trying to do. If that answers your question.
Well, Coach, no, we do appreciate your time. We've been talking your ear off. We probably talk for another couple hours too if you didn't have it all night. But We do appreciate it. Third season head coach there at Altavista, head of the Colonels, Coach Matt Deloach. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, so District 2 Sports Podcast, and we're excited to welcome one of Virginia's most accomplished high school football coaches with 6 state championship appearances and 3 state titles between Wayne Campbell and Heritage. He's built a legacy of winning and leadership. It's Coach Brad Bradley. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate that.
Well, Coach, I wanted to kind of go back into your success. We've kind of talked about this offline a little bit, but you've been at Wayne Campbell and Heritage. You've been to several, state championship appearances, and you won a few state titles there as well. What do you feel has been the key to sustaining success over so many years?
I think the biggest thing doesn't change no matter where you're at and what kind of talent you have. I think the biggest thing is you figure out how to get kids to get over themselves. We have a big saying this year. We want to be selfless in order to be selfish. What I mean by that is you got to put your team first. That's the selfless part. In order for your team to become really good, and then all of a sudden, you're going to get individual accolades, and that's part of being selfish. And I think that that's one of the things we've tried to preach, and we try to, all the things that hard work. But the biggest thing is, man, you can't be selfish in this game. If you're selfish in this game, it's not going to work. It's the greatest game in the world. You can have 1 or 2 basketball dudes. You can have a pretty daggone good basketball team. You have a really great quarterback, no offensive line, probably not going to win. You can have the best offensive line in the world, not have dudes behind them, probably not going to win. So football is a true life sport. You got to count on the brother beside you, behind you, and in front of you. And I think that that's some of the things that we try to do and what we tried to do since I've been coaching.
Well, Coach, you've been part of the game for over 20 years. And so I want to ask you, over your time, how have you seen the game of football change or evolve, and also the athletes that have started from when you're just started coaching until now?
Well, you were just nice and polite. I'm actually right at 30 years. I'm starting my 31st year coaching overall, my 29th year as a head coach. Give me the question again, because you threw me off when you just said over 20. You got me to be young again.
Well, now that you've been a part of it for 30 years,
there you go.
How has the game and the athlete, changed and evolved over the years?
Man, that's a good question. I think, I came into this thing probably one of the youngest head coaches in the nation. I actually took my first head coaching job at Gilmer County, West Virginia, when I was 21 years old. The first game I coached, I was 22. I would say the couple things that have changed, obviously, is, the culture, just culture in general. Transferring was not even thought about back then. And now it's an everyday thing. I think kids used to be kids just did what you tell them to do. Run through the wall. Yes, sir. All right. Now it's run through the wall. Why, coach? Why would I run through that brick wall? You know what I mean? So they think a little bit more, which is a great thing. And I think that, I think another thing is, I think that, again, going back to the individuals, I think people want to be seen. We're big on here at Heritage. We don't wear arm sleeves. We wear the same socks. If I could get Nike to ever get on board and have an order, we'd have the same shoes like we did for the first 5 or 6 years. But I think too many people now in all sports want to be seen. Hey, let me throw one pant up and one pant down. Let me put this pink thing on here when I'm not even on pink night, or let me do this. And I think that people want to be seen. But the things I think that haven't changed, man, ball hadn't changed. It's still ball. Like, you still got to block, tackle, fundamentals, and things like that. So, even though it's changed, and what happens is you're the young coach, you jump in here and you hear these older guys, hey, kids aren't the same today. Well, I'm now that coach. Kids aren't the same today. But I think you got to figure out a way to adapt or you get left behind. And I think that that's part of it. I think, some of us, like, our dinosaurs that have been there for 30 years, there's not a lot of them left now. And you see a lot less coaches going 30 years because it's a tough thing to do. But I think one of the reasons is because it's just, it's a harder grind. This is not a 9-to-5 job. And you sign up to be a coach. You don't sign up to be, you got to be here all the time. And the kids are different, and you got to adapt and figure them out. And I think that's what builds in longevity.
Coach, you were talking about Rich Rod earlier before we got on here. How much of an influence was he on your coaching style? Heritage is known for their offenses. I've seen you guys get your athletes out in space, and did his those offenses that he had in previous years, did that kind of influence yours as well?
Yeah, I mean, we still use a lot of the base terms. Like we still our base formations. We'll hear things, and it's a guy could come in. I had a buddy of mine that has top 5 receiving records that beat Jerry Rice at one time. Glenville State's name was Chris George, and he came into our locker room in the state semifinal game one year, and he said, "Y'all still using rip, Liz, ram, lion?" Like he could still get half the terminology. But I took a lot of offense. I mean, God put me in the right place. I got there in 1992 at Glenville State and got recruited by Rich Rod, and that was a right place for me. But I'm going to tell you right now, that guy taught me more about how to be passionate about this game. And Rich Rod gets a lot of negative stuff about how he's on kids and this now. I'm going to tell you right now, I was that kid that would run through that brick wall for Rich Rodriguez, and I would still do that because he did things behind closed doors. He did things for his players that people didn't know about, and he taught me that kids are the most important thing, and he taught me that also, like, if you don't have that passion, you don't come with it every single day in practice, and they can't feel that your excitement to be there, then they're not going to be excited to be there. So what I've learned from Rich Rodriguez, man, is a little bit of everything. I think that he changed a lot of the things that I was thinking. I also was very lucky to play for Willis White, which was at the time at Salem, that won multiple state championships, and I was with him, but two contrasting styles. Willis, he never yelled. Rodriguez, I don't think ever was in a regular voice. So, we definitely learned some things, but I definitely think that a lot of some of the traits and a lot of the things that I do now as a coach, and my actions and my offenses and a lot of schemes definitely came from Rich Rodriguez.
Coach, what position were you at Glenville State?
I was a wide receiver. So my freshman year, I made the travel team, played special teams, earned my way. Kids today, they don't like to do that, but I earned my way. I played on the punt return, blocked a couple punts my freshman year. I was on the kickoff team. My sophomore year, I was a rotating wide receiver to slot position. I earned the starting punt return job. My freshman year, never gave it up. So I returned punts for basically 3.5 years. In my junior and senior year, I was a full-time receiver, didn't have to rotate. My claim to fame was, my senior year, I had 49, 50 catches. Guys, I was fourth or fifth on the team. We had a guy named Carlos Ferraz, had 129 catches. So, I was that Wes Welker. I'd catch the ball on a slant. I would do those kind of things. But I did the stuff that nobody liked to do, and I did the stuff that's selfless, in my opinion, to be selfish. We had a really good football team. I blocked my butt off. When Coach asked me to block backside, I'm blocking my butt off backside. He asked me to block play side, I'm gonna block my butt off, and that's how I got to play. God didn't give me a lot of height and this and that, but He gave me heart and He gave me an opportunity to do things. And Rich Rod would always say it, "I'm trying to fire you, Bradley. I'm trying to fire you. I'm trying to find somebody faster, taller." And every year he couldn't fire me because I'd find a way to stay on the field.
Do you find yourself spending a little bit more time with the wide receivers? I mean, obviously, with your experience at that position, obviously, how secondaries work too. I mean, do you find yourself spending a little bit more time with those skill position guys?
I've been really lucky, especially the last couple of years. Now, I'm 23, I had to do a lot more, but I've got a guy named Ben Alexander that I hired from Liberty University. He was actually a starting safety at Liberty University with Freeze in 21. He's been my wide receivers coach for the last 3 years. I'll be honest with you, yes, I'm involved in every group, but I'll let my guys coach. Like, at the end of the day, like, I don't want to be over there and be stepping on their toes. Now, there'll be days, I'll come over and I got a blocking drill we want to do, or I got this we want to do. But, yeah, I mean, I still obviously, receivers are probably dear to me because, I coached it before and I've played it. But I try to go around to every position. I'm probably, in every position. I've been really lucky to have an offensive line coach, the same offensive line coach for the last 25 years. So I'll go down there just to really kind of just annoy him because, question him on what he's doing because we've been around so long, and it kind of makes him mad, but I do that on purpose. But, no, I mean, I guess to answer your question, I try to treat every position group fairly and try to be over there.
Well, Coach, just talking to you, you've been known for your energy and discipline, and we talked about the kids who have kind of, evolved over the last 30 years. How do you still keep it, get that toughness or bounce the toughness of keeping the game fun for them? Because I know these kids nowadays, they got to have fun while they're playing too. So
that's the thing, man. You play for me, it ain't going to be easy. I'm not going to sit there and count. Y'all seen me. Y'all been on sidelines. We're playing last night against William Fleming. I'm on their butt. Doesn't mean I don't love them, but I'm going to correct them and we're going to hold them accountable. But I'm saying that the thing that keeps me energized is I love this game. Every single thing I have in my life came from football. My dad was a coach. My grandfather was a coach. My uncle was a coach. Every meal that's gotten on my table from the time I grew up, football provided. Every car I've ever driven in or rode in, my dad, my grandfather, me, that's been football provided. 90% of the people in my life I've met through football. And when I lose that passion or I find kids that don't want to match our passion, then I might think about giving it up. But, some people ask me, well, why are you trying to do both, athletic director and football coach? That's pretty hard. It is. First of all, it's a challenge. And people say you can't do it. So I'm going to prove them wrong. I mean, that's how I was born, and that's how I've always been. But the biggest thing is I still love this game. This is the best game in the world. And it's my old high school coach used to say, tough game, played by tough people under tough conditions. And you go through and you look at football, it covers every single thing in those things. And I wake up every morning very blessed to have my job, very blessed to have the opportunity to coach kids. And, when I get to the point when I don't want to be around my kids, some coaches get to that point, it's time for me to step away. But right now, man, I love my kids. And, I mess with them on group chat. They mess with me. I'm 52 years old. Both my knees are horrible, and they'll make fun of me. They'll take pictures of me in practice or video, and they'll send it back, and they'll laugh at me. We had an office manager up here, and she put something on TikTok or Instagram. Teams coming out last night. Here I am behind them, limping, and all my kids are just making fun of me. That's fun. That's what this thing's all about, man. I'm very lucky to still have relationships with kids, man, that played for me 30 years ago. I mean, I got a kid that played for me at Gilmer County, West Virginia. I was 22 years old. He was 17, 18. Like, dude, that was only 4 years. And he's now the head coach at Gilmer County High School, right? Like, I've got those guys. I've got guys that played for me at Botetourt when I was an assistant coach at Botetourt for 2 years in 98, 99. And they got a realty business together. I mean, that's the part. When you get invited to weddings, you get invited to christenings, you get invited to things like that, and you get involved. Even if they just let you know what's going on in their life, that's what this thing's about. Because at the end of the day, man, we all want to win football games, but we want to win in life. And if I get a chance to keep getting these kids involved in these kids' lives, and they feel like I'm important enough to keep me involved in their life, that's going to keep me wanting to coach this game.
Coach, going from coaching to being the athletic director, in this time and age where everyone has to win right now, you got to see wins, you got to have a winning season, you got to win state championships. How do you approach, looking over these other programs as far as, baseball, basketball, and whatnot? How do you keep in contact with these coaches and let them know they're on the right track? And how do you approach that conversation?
I think coming in first year, I think it's one of those things that you kind of, got to have a chance to meet with the coaches. Now, I haven't met with the winter coaches yet. Obviously, fall is going. We had a really unique situation here. We had our volleyball coach kind of dip on us 2 weeks before the volleyball season started. So I got two young women that have done a great job. They've stepped up. Just right now, my job for them is just to be there. Hey, you got a question? I'll be there. You need something ordered? I'm there. You got an issue with the travel? I'm there. And then I get into the winter, I'm going to have a little bit more veteran coaches, and I think it's just about, we do got to set expectations. When I took this job, I'll give you a fact. In 2012, when I took this job here at Heritage, the Heritage and Glass job were open. There was a lot of guys that applied for both, not me. I knew I was a pioneer. I did not want the Glass job. Nothing against Glass, but I knew, to me, you can't apply for the Heritage job and apply for the Glass job. Who does that? All right. So when I applied for the Heritage job, one of the reasons I wanted the Heritage job, at the time, Mark Meyer was the principal. It ended up being the superintendent at Montgomery County for a while. And his assistant principal was Tim Beatty, which is now my principal, which has been my principal the whole time. But he told me in an interview, like, if you don't win, you're going to get fired. Like, we're going to get rid of you. Like, we have the expectations. We want to get this thing turned around. And at the time, both programs were struggling. That's what made me excited about Heritage. I want to be held accountable. And we've won 127 games in 13 years. I think we've been accountable. And, we've had our ups, we've had our downs. But I think the biggest thing to answer your question, man, you just got to work with the coaches. But definitely communicate what your expectations are, because I'm going to promise you this, my expectations are going to be different than the last. The same way the next AD is going to be different expectation of mine. But there's some situations, at Heritage, we've had trouble fielding a baseball team on both JV and varsity. And that's something, we really got to do and get recruiting. We just hired our softball coach. He's out there recruiting to get things, we haven't had a JV soccer coach. JV soccer team in a while. So there's a lot of challenges right now. I need to hire a swim coach. So there's a lot of things, and it's just a matter of, hey, you got to allow time for it, set aside. And the biggest thing about doing the AD thing, when you get something, you can't put it off. You got to handle it right then, because all of a sudden you put it off, it's got this. Now you're stacked. So one of the things I try to do is just take it off the board every time it comes around.
Coach, you've been at Heritage since 2012. I'm sure you've been around the Seminole longer than that, but just talking about the Seminole district in general, I kind of refer to as the SEC of high school football conferences. I mean, it seems like every other year or last 10 years, people have gone on runs, won state championships. Rustburg, Heritage has won, EC Glass is up, JF, everybody, Amherst when Abel was there. How do you approach each game each week, and how tough of a district is this just for you every year to go through?
And I know, man, and I'm not disrespecting any teams in Roanoke or anywhere around us, but nobody, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, nobody wants to play in the Seminole District week in and week out. Now, you schedule a Seminole District team, that's fine. You did, but I'm going to promise you something, man. Our district, from top to bottom, is probably one of the most physical districts in the state of Virginia, and definitely the most physical. You said it, and I've said it many times in my 14 years here, SEC, because at any given day. Now, we're not blessed with a lot of great Division I athletes. We've had some, don't get me wrong. Logan Thomas, we had Lala. We've had some dudes, all right? But we don't really have those guys. We're not the beach area 757. We're not the 804. We're not the Richmond. I'm going to promise what we are. We got dudes that want to play football. And you're talking about how I prepare for every game. Every game in the Seminole District is going to be a slobber knocker. People in this district, coaches in this district that have been here for a while, like Rocco and Cruz now going in, I think, what is his fourth year? They understand, man. It's any given. Even given Sunday, it's any given Friday. Who knows what's going to happen? If you don't show up to play, you're getting your butt kicked. And the thing about it is, in this district, to me, it's not so much we got the best teams in the state of Virginia, but it's everybody is competitive, and you got to face them. We always say it, somewhere in your schedule in the Seminole, you're going to run the gauntlet. You're going to have to play LCA. You're going to have to play Rustburg. You're going to have to play Brookville. You're going to have to play them all in a row. Like, that's hard. Glass, our rival. So everybody's got to get in that gauntlet. And there's really, I think Liberty's going to be up this year. I think they've done a better job. And I just think, you look at our district year in, year out, man, it's tough. And I'm probably prejudiced about it, but I do think, and I've been here for 14 years in this district. This is a tough district, man. I'd rather go back to the Dogwood any day of the week. I was there for 9 years. I'll go there any day of the week because, and I'm not taking nothing away from the Dogwood, but top to bottom. Like when I was in the Dogwood, you had Gretna, William Campbell, Appomattox came along. Chatham had one couple years. Then River started to come there when they had the couple kids they had. But there was never the consistency of 5 or 6 teams every single year. Here it's boom, 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 boom. And it's a tough district.
Do you think that's a product, Coach, of just like the coaching in the district? Do you think it's more of a product of the kids who are coming through, the Lynchburg Forest area? I mean, what do you think it is?
Well, I think me personally, and y'all have heard me say this many times, kids win games, coaches lose games. Coach, don't get me wrong, great coaching in this district. Great coaching. Much respect for everybody there. And I think now that Coach Ross over at Rustburg, new coach at Liberty, Coach Womack, I mean, there is great coaching here. But I mean, I'll say it again. We don't have all the D1 dudes, but man, we got dudes that can play, and they are good, tough, rugged high school football players. So I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to say the kids. I think kids make coaches. You can be the best schemer in the world. I can go up there and I can win on the board all day long. But if I ain't got Jimmy and Joe's to run those X's and O's, I'm getting my butt kicked. So I'm going to say kids in this. I think kids in this area are pretty tough.
Coach, I just want to revisit last year. You guys go 9-3 overall. I think you lose 2 games, 2 close ones in the regular season to LCA, a game that was a nail biter. I think you lost by 7 there, and you lose a close one to Glass. You guys beat Rustburg in the playoffs and lose to LCA in the playoffs. But I want to get your overall thoughts of last year, and then also, what can this team carry over from last year to get better for this year?
Well, you talk about the 2 losses: the regular season loss to LCA and the regular season loss to Glass. Especially a Glass loss, probably one of the hardest losses we've ever had. I mean, we only gave up like 90 yards of offense. and we lost. And we gave up 3 special team touchdowns, roughly three. Every point came off special teams. We gave up a kickoff return. We snapped a punt over our head that ended up 3 points. They get on the 4-yard line. We held them to 3. And then we snapped a punt over their head, and they score. So, and then we lose 17-13. All points came out of special teams. If you go back to the LCA game, we gave up a kickoff return to get in, which we're never supposed to kick it deep, and we give them 7 points. So, and then the second game against the LCA in the playoffs, nothing but credit to LCA. They were rolling. They had it rolling, and that's why they're state champions. That's why they represented that district we talk about all the time, the Seminole District. But, I was very happy with our kids last year. I thought we fought. We had our chances in those 2 games. We were a couple plays away from being a 10-1 team or 11-1 team. This year, I think it's a different situation. I think that I started out in 2023, lost our defense coordinator 3 days before practice started. And so I had to do the defense and kind of do the offense. And it was a crazy season. And we had a bunch of sophomores and freshmen. Those kids became juniors last year. Now we're seniors. I've got 21 seniors. Now, that's misleading. A couple of those are new kickers that have never been on the team. So you're looking at 18 solid seniors that have been with this program, though. And that's big. I haven't had that many seniors probably for about around 22, and we were a pretty good football team in 22. So I think that that's another thing about the Seminole. You get a good group of seniors that have been in leadership, that have been in the Seminole District, then, you got a chance to compete. If you don't, you don't. And that's the thing about it. So we're lucky. I think going in this year, we do have some senior leadership. I think it's up to us how good we're going to be. Now, I didn't, as the athletic director, I didn't help us out any. We opened up with the number 1 team out of West Virginia. And we're off this coming week. We open up on September the 5th. Bridgeport, West Virginia was 14-0 last year, averaged over 52 points a game, never went 1 game, 4 quarters. Every single game was a running clock. They run the single wing. They've lost 3 games in 3 years. They're studs. But, in my career, you don't get to be better. You don't become the best team unless you play the best teams. So we're going to go 5 hours away, and we're going to give it everything we got. And we're excited about that opportunity to put our program on display. And then, if that wasn't bad enough, my next deal was to add Thomas Jefferson, which was 12-1 last year. So I literally added 25-1 to our schedule. And you still got the district schedule. So, I really don't think I'd have done that to a lot of groups, but I truly believe that this group can handle it. And if we can overcome adversity, that's what's going to happen in the season. We're going to have adversity. We're going to have injuries. We might have an unexpected loss. We might have an unexpected situation. If we're able to handle adversity, we're going to have a pretty good football team. If we can't, we won't. But in my experience, 2018, 2022, 2012 here at Heritage, 2005, 2002 at William Campbell, we weren't always the best teams, but we came together as a team, and we found out how to overcome adversity. And that's what wins football games for you.
And Coach, you talk about talent. Y'all are looking pretty loaded this year, and I think that kind of shows last night with the win against Fleming. But, Slash, Holloway, David Bradley, Dominic Jones, Javen Gaskins, Xavier Scott. You got a newcomer in Raekwon Rucker, I believe, right?
Yes, sir.
So just talk about those guys, what they're going to mean to the program this year, and any other guys who stepped up or last night or who you expect to step up.
Well, I think we're going to talk about last night. We talked about Jaden Miller. Jaden Miller, had a tough season last year, and really has worked his butt off in the offseason, and came out last night, had a touchdown catch, had a big catch across the middle, and ended up having a pick 6 there at the end. To me, that's what Heritage football is all about, man. It's not always going to go your way. He didn't quit. He didn't put his hands up. He just fought through it and spent all offseason getting better. So I think his confidence level going into this regular season will be great. Yeah, all the guys you mentioned, man. We got some good dudes there, and I think we got some other seniors. I don't have a roster right in front of me, but Caleb Grant, defensive end, played a lot of football last year. I'm really excited about. Tyler Harless came over from Glass early. His parents moved over here in January, February. He's playing outside linebacker. Really excited about him. He had a big pick last night. I think the record kid you're talking about is safety. I also think I got some other safeties. I think Juice Davis is a kid. He didn't get to play a lot in the first group last night. Played a lot in the second half. I think he's going to be a kid that's going to get a bunch of reps for us on the defensive side of the football. Corner, Jaden kind of helped solidify that third spot. Got K1 Clark and Slash there. Slash not going to play every game there, but he's daggone pretty good corner. And then you obviously, man, you talk about defense. You're going to talk about our Mike linebacker. He's 3-year starter now, Holloway. And then, you mentioned the Gaskins kid. You mentioned Brad Scott. But I'll tell you what, man, another kid, sophomore, and Tremeke Hudson. Tremeke Hudson's going to be a player. He's about 6'1", 6'2", about 215, and he's got a motor, and he's crazy. I mean, he's just chaos on the field. And I'm glad to have him on our side. Offensively, we lost some big-name receivers, but I like this group better because we got dudes that maybe not be as great athletes, but they run the right routes. They're in the right place. They're doing the right things, and we're able to do a lot more. You watch us play over the last couple of years, we've been a little limited on what we could or could not do on the passing game. And we threw more concepts last night than we've thrown probably all year last year. And I think it's showing that we have an opportunity. We have a chance for a tight end spot. Jax Fowler, number 9, is kind of came in as a junior, going to be able to give us a little bit of reps at that tight end spot. Tyler's going to give us a little bit more versatility. He can kind of line up at that sniffer back, we call it, that hip back, or he can line up at the slot, and nobody can personnel that, right? So that's a little different than what we've had in the last couple of years. So, yeah, man, I mean, I want to mention as many kids I can. J.J. Jackson at the wide receiver position, AC. AC is our outside receiver. Trying to think. I'm just trying to throw some names in there. Oh, Flash Fleshman. So Flash touched the ball twice last night, one for about a 7 or 8 yard gain in varsity, and then it took the other one to the house. He's a 10-700 kid. Like, he's going to get some touches here and there. So, we do have good talent, but I'm going to promise you this. I can go through LCA, Glass, Rustburg, Amherst, Brookville, every single one of those teams, and I can tell you that they can match us up. So we have good talent, but at the end of the day, if you're sitting there playing NCAA 26 and you got the things that say the ratings 95, well, dude, there's a lot of 95s in Seminole District. So I'm just happy that we're able to at least look like them. But at the end of the day, you're a 95 and a 95. There ain't a whole lot of advantages going on in the Seminole District.
Well, Coach, I know it's just a benefit game last night against William Fleming, but they are also a 5A school, and they've been to the playoffs the last few years. I mean, what can you take away from I think it was a 41-7 win over them? How much thought do you put into that game last night? Does it bode well for the rest of the season? Well,
we meet as coaches after the game. So we were here till about 1 o'clock last night. So we were reviewing the film. We did some good things. We did some bad things. But the best thing that came out of last night, last year they pushed us around a little bit. We, especially offensive line, we were missing some kids. We just had some spots we had to fill. We were still trying to do that. This year, I thought we pushed them around a little bit. I thought we were more physical. And we have a couple things here that are really what we try to really rely on. Control the controllables. You can control your effort. You can control your attitude, right? And you can control what you do in terms of making mistakes because you lock in, you physically focus. So you can control your alignment, your assignment, and your technique. And but the biggest thing you can control your body language. That's big. There's nothing worse than being a high school football coach. We just scored a touchdown. You got a kid over there, you didn't get the ball. Like, it don't matter if you get the ball. It's about winning the game and be selfless and eventually be selfish because that team is going to get the accolades. No all-state teams are made up of 1-9 teams, okay? All all-state teams are made up of state champion, state runner-up, deep playoff run teams. That's what it's all about. So I think that's kind of where we're at. I saw that we were way more physical, way more energy, still got a lot of fundamental stuff to clean up.
Coach, when you talk about this team, we talk about the schedule, but what's the identity that you want them to develop by the season's end?
Be physical. Be physical and fight. It's life. I mean, at the end of the day, I've been doing this a while. I'm getting older, but the greatest thing about football, the greatest thing about sports in general, but I'm going to take football right off the bat, is life, man. You just don't go and fight. And you get punched in the mouth, whether it be you lost your job, whether it be you're getting a divorce, whether it be something bad happened to you, and you throw your hands in the air and you whine and cry about it. What's going to happen to you in life? Life ain't forgiving. So in football, we just got to keep fighting. Things are going to happen. We're going to be up by 14. We're going to have to play from ahead. We're going to be down by 14. We're going to have to play from ahead. State championship team we had in 2018, not near as talented as we were in 2017. Different was they didn't care who scored. They didn't care what happened as long as it was a Pioneer that did it. And they could overcome adversity, and they were mentally tough, and we just figured it out. And I think this group, I really do. I like this group. I love this group. And, there's some things, we're not perfect. And, some days they probably think I don't think they do anything right. But I do like this group. I think that we have the potential to have great leadership. It's just a matter of where we do it or not. And now the preseason is over. None of that counts. And great last night, but at the end of the day, it's a benefit game. So nobody puts that in the paper, and they shouldn't at least. And now, really, man, we got September the 5th, Bridgeport, West Virginia, 5 hours away, state championship football team, lost 3 games in 3 years in their stadium, in their house, 12 state championships. We're going to find out who we are. We're going to find out who we are really quick in 48 minutes.
Coach, what is a successful season for the Heritage Pioneers for 2025? State championship?
I hate to say that, and I know that sounds bad. And I think our kids will agree. I think a lot of people in the Seminole District will agree. Once you've been there and you've tasted it, you don't ever want to not go back. And I've been very blessed to be there 6 times, like you said. Now, I've also been at the top of the mountain, the bottom of the mountain. We won a state championship in 2002, 70-0. I got my butt kicked in 2012, 52-0. Right? So I've been there. I know. Briarwood with what was it, daggone Trace McSorley.
Yep.
13 dudes off that team were Division I guys, right? I mean, we shouldn't have been on the field. Next year, we went down to 3. We were both 4 that year in 12. Next year, we went down to 3. They went to 5. They lost to LC Bird right at the end of the game in the state championship. Before that, Trace McSorley won 3 in a row. We drew Phoebus, probably the best Phoebus team we've drawn in 2022, right? So we've been there. But we set a goal. Like if I'm a dad or if I'm just a regular person in life, I don't want to set my goal that I can just barely feed my family or I can just get this house. I want to set my goal to be, I want to be top salesman. I want to be this big house. I want to be this. I want to be that. So we're going to set our goal here. So anything we don't get there, it seems like it's a failure or it's not our success. It's not that mean. It doesn't mean that we might get to the second round, third round. We still had a great year. But in our mind, our goals are set here. That's where our goals are set. So if you're asking me personally, I might sit back 5 weeks away and say 9-3 was a good season. But at the end of the day, it didn't set well for me. It didn't set well for our team. It didn't set well for our coaches. And I think that's been our motivation going all the way through this. Now, you can say the same thing, and you can have that group, that 95 and 95, like I said, and then you can come out of this daggone Seminole District 5-5 easily. So it's pretty simple. It's the proof is what they say. The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
What we do on the field is what the greatest thing about. And I think that this is something, and I keep talking about this, but in life, man, you got to compete. You got to compete. It's going to be a competition with everything. So we got to compete every day of our life. Every day we got to get up, figure a way out as coaches to get us a better football team. As a player, it might be all right today. I gave my kids off. We had a benefit game last night. But what are they doing today to get better? Are they actually going to get some rest? Are they going to put good stuff in their body? Are they going to drink a lot of water? Are they going to do some stuff for recovery? Are they going to get in an ice bath? They're going to do this thing? Or are they just going to, go eat Frosted Flakes and watch SpongeBob and SquarePants, right? They got some things they have to do too. So it's what we're going to do. You got to compete each and every day to get better.
Well, Coach, if I was a 16, 17, 18-year-old, I would be ready to run through the wall for you as well. But I'm 34 now. I can't play anymore. But it's been an awesome time. I love the expectations. I think that's always good for young kids out there to set the bar high, make them get up there. So we do appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy, and we hope to have you back on for a playoff preview as well.
Anytime, man. I'm hoping fortunate enough to be there, but I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Anybody in this area that is bringing attention to these athletes, to these young men, I'm for it. I don't think our athletes in all sports get enough credit. And with everybody's budgets being constricted now, TV's guys used to have 3 or 4 camera guys. Now they got one dude, right? He's got to go cover every single thing. And then the paper, they don't even have a paper anymore, but 2 days a week. It's sad because there's still really good things going on with high school sports. whether it be girls, boys, whether it be soccer, football, whatever. These young people need the accolades. They need to be mentioned. They need to have things brought out, and they need the publicity. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing on your end.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we'll definitely like to have some of your players on here too to talk
Anytime.
recruiting.
We're
stuff,
always
so.
available. We're always available.
Anytime we can do anything as far as pushing these kids up to the next level, let us know. We talked a lot of D3, D2 coaches, but same thing we can do to help out, just let us know.
And just for the record, I ain't rooting for no North Carolina. It was a gift. That's my biggest fan. Go Mountaineers and go Thundering Herd, because my college roommate is at Marshall. So go Thundering Herd.
Well, you hear from Coach Brad Bradley there at the Heritage Pioneers. Thank you, Coach. We appreciate your time.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, so District 2 Sports Podcast, and tonight we're excited to welcome Jefferson Forest head football coach JT Cruz to the podcast. Coach Cruz is entering his 5th season with the Cavaliers and continues to build a winning program in one of the toughest districts in Virginia, the Seminole. Coach, how are you doing tonight?
Doing really well, man. Glad to be here.
Well, Coach, my first question to you is, you played in the Seminole at Brookville. You coached as an assistant coach there at EC Glass, and now you're the head coach at Jefferson Forest. So you've been around the Seminole a lot. We've likened it to maybe like the SEC of Virginia districts there in Virginia, whatever. But can I talk about your experience and what you've and what is the Seminole? How good is it?
Man, it's honestly the cool thing about the Seminole is like every team is it's a battle every week, man. Seriously, like I haven't run the numbers or anything. I know it's the only one in Virginia, and I'm sure it's one of the few out there where every single team in that district has won a state championship at some point in the history of their school, which like that's rare, across the board with as many schools as we have to have all had, that level of success somewhere along the line. And so the history and tradition at each school, like there's no little sisters of the poor or anything like that in the Seminole. Like, everybody has up and down years and things like that, but man, it's week in, week out. Like if you're not ready to play, like they're going to go out there and they're going to beat you, and they're going to beat you good. Like it's not like, you might be able to squeak by somebody. Like, no, if you're not ready, they're going to get after you, man. It's physical. It's good, fun football, man. I love coaching in the Seminole.
Well, I got to ask you, since it's your 5th season here, so I was looking at your record. So first year you get there, you guys go 1-8, or I got according to Max Preps 1-8, maybe
1-8. Yeah. It was when we had the COVID cancellation, all that stuff. Yeah.
There we go. And then second year you go 4-7, but the last 2 years you've won 19 games. I think you won 10 games 2 years ago, and then last year you won 9 games. What's been the recipe for success those last 2 years?
Honestly, man, I say we because I came in with a really, really good group of coaches that came on with me at JF. Guys that I'd known through my time at Brookville and then Glass. My defensive coordinator, Brian Burford, he was my JV offensive line coach when I was in 9th grade at Brookville High School, and then had the opportunity to work with him when I was working under Jeff Woody at Glass, who was also my head coach at Brookville. So when I made the move from Glass to JF, Coach Burf came with me. And then Larry Kidd, who was my defensive line coach at Brookville, was the athletic director for Brookville at a long time. He retired my first year as the head coach at JF. And I was like, man, Coach Kidd, come on, man, come coach with me. And so got those 2 guys on board, and then slowly built out my staff with some other really, really good key guys, and had some guys at JF that have been there for a while and were really good coaches. My head JV coach, Jason Harris, is phenomenal, man. He was a quarterback at JF and is as good as they come running that program. Getting David Harlow, he was at Liberty for a long time, came over and joined us here. And so, honestly, I think that was the biggest key, is just being able to surround myself with really, really good coaches that are about developing the kids. And so when we got there that first year, I learned really well how tough the Seminole district can be that first year, man. It was it was a steep learning curve as my first year as a head coach. But we just continue to build, man, continue to work and love the kids and build relationships with them and get them to cultivate buy-in. And so my first year, we had a really good sophomore class. And we kind of knew that class was going to be the one that if we invested in these guys, they might be able to get us over the hump. And so that was that first group that set the culture in place when we got to 2023 and they were finally seniors, that we could go out and really compete at a high level in the Seminole. And the culture that those guys set, now it's kind of carrying down to the rest of these teams, right? Like they lit the torch and now they're passing that torch down to the rest of these guys. And it's across all aspects of the program, like the weight room, getting started in January and the work that goes in then all the way through practice. I mean, everything. Like that first core group that we had of guys, like they did a really, really good job of putting a firm, solid culture in place that the guys that we have now could look up to and emulate.
Coach, you mentioned a name there that's very very popular in the Lynchburg area. Jeff Woody, he was your
Yeah.
coach. You said in high school, and then he was at EC Glass for a while, and I think he's back at
He's in
at
Brookville now.
Brookville.
Yeah.
Back over there. But what did he mean to you playing and also being the assistant coach under him? How much did you learn from him?
It was really cool. Like, and I've had that experience multiple times where I've played for somebody and then had the opportunity to coach with them. It was really, really cool to have that experience with Coach Woody, because when I was playing, he was a relatively young head coach. My first year on varsity, I think it was maybe 05 or 06, somewhere around. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers. That was his first year as the head coach at Brookville. And so I was there for 3 years and kind of got to watch him build that program as a young head coach. And then to come back on the other side of things when I left the college game and got on as an assistant at EC Glass, and to kind of see behind the scenes how he does all that stuff, man. And it was really cool to be around him. And probably the biggest thing that I learned from Coach Woody, and the thing that we try and do at JF, is like, this is a game and it's supposed to be fun. Like that was the one thing that when you're on a team and Coach Woody's coaching it, like, you're going to have fun. Like, it's going to be fun going to practice as a coach, because we all get along. We got great staff chemistry, and then that carries over to the kids, and the kids can tell when you're having a good time at practice and you're enjoying being there and they're enjoying being there. Like, it just goes a long way to where it's not just, the day in, day out drudgery of practice. Like, I want our kids' highlight of the day to be football practice, right? And that was what we had at Glass with Woody, and I'm sure what he built at Brookville, so that was probably the biggest thing that I learned, is like, it's okay to have fun in football, right? Like, we got work to do, and, we're out here to practice and get better, but as long as the fun does not get in the way of the work, like, it's okay to have fun. And man, that was always the case with him. Like, there was always a joke. We were always having fun, and the kids, like, they enjoyed that. They want to be there, and you're going to be better because of it.
Oh, no, I wanted to ask you. So, I mean, from when you got there back in 2021 until now, when you first got there, what was the culture you wanted to instill, and do you feel like you've gotten to that point now here in 2025?
Yeah, JF's an interesting place, because every sport there, especially now that we've gotten things rolling with football, every sport has a pretty good level of success. I mean, if you look at our spring season last year, there was a point like late in the spring where across baseball, softball, track was doing really well. Both of our soccer, girls and boys soccer were doing really well. Like, they lost like one game across all of those sports. And so it had gotten to the point in JF when I first got there where I think kids were starting to kind of like, pick their path with a sport and kind of think of themselves as one sport athletes. And that was something that I really wanted to try and get away from being the football coach, because there's so much talent in that school. Like, I want guys to know that it's okay. Like, you can play football, and then you can play baseball, and then you can play lacrosse, or you can play football and basketball. Like, you can do it all. Like, it's okay to do that. And honestly, I think that's one thing that we have a lot on this year's team, is we got a lot of guys that play a lot of different sports. And so building that culture and letting them know, like, yeah, the expectation is that, we're going to lift and we're going to get after it in the off season. But man, if you're playing basketball, like, go play basketball. Like, go be really good at that and compete and be good. Or if you're playing lacrosse in the spring, like, go play lacrosse and win games there. Like, I don't think there's any substitute for competition. And so, especially when it's a lot of the same guys. Like, you look at this year, guys that had a ton of success in lacrosse, Dax Rowland and Spencer Sloan, who were all state players in lacrosse, like, they're going to be big time football players for us too. And so, like, that was a big part of the culture that I was trying to build. Like, we can all share athletes and have success. And then honestly, like I said, just making sure that football can be fun. Like, we can enjoy being out here and fellowshipping and bonding and making this a family, and something that we all love being a part of. And if the kids love being there, they're going to keep showing up and they're going to keep working, and we're going to be able to get more and more out of them. That was the biggest piece of the culture, being able to share athletes, and then like, just making sure, man, we're going to work, but we're going to have fun while we're doing it.
I want to ask you about the fan base and just like the community support there. I mean, JF has a proud tradition there as far as sports and history, stuff like that. How much has the community supported you and your endeavors to get this team to a winning program?
It's been huge. It's been huge, honestly. And being able to experience that on the other side, when I was playing football at Brookville High School, and JF was the biggest rival at that point. Like, I can remember going into Sabre and like playing games there down in the bowl, and like the atmosphere, like, that was like, you didn't get that at a lot of other places. That was always really fun as somebody going in to play at JF, and now being able to coach there and be on the other side of it. Like, the fan support, the community support. I mean, it's huge, and it's a big part of the success that we've had here. And that's the great thing about a place like JF, is that we have that level of community support where there are a lot of people both within the building and then just in the greater community, they're invested in football being successful. right? It's one of those deals where if we need something as a program, right? Like, hey, we got to raise a little money. We got to replace this 5-man sled. Like there are people willing and happy to provide that level of support. There are people that are willing and happy to donate a meal to feed our guys before a game. Like that type of community support goes a long, long way, man. And it's a big part of why we've been able to have the success that we've had over these past couple of years.
Wanted to review last year. You guys go, I think, 9-3, make it to playoffs, go 1-1. But last year, there's 3 games you lost. You lost to all three of them are playoff teams, so no real loss there. You guys beat some great teams too. Beat Gretna. Beat Bedford rival there, Stanford River. Got to win over your previous school there, Brookville. But I just want to get your thoughts on last year, how it went, and if there's anything you guys could have done maybe better looking back.
So, 2 years ago, we had that 10-win season. And that was kind of like, us showing that, like, hey, we're here and we're ready to compete at the top level in the Seminole District. But like I mentioned before, that was with a lot of guys that had been in the program for a long time, guys that were sophomores when I came in and that were seniors by year 3 in 2023 they were ready to take that next step. Well, then all those guys graduated. And so now it's like, all right, well, what are we going to do now in 2024? Like, was that just a 1-year deal for us where we had a special group of kids, or are we going to be able to keep this thing going? And so that was kind of the test for our guys last year. Like, can we prove that this was not just a 1-year thing, that like we're here and we're here to stay? And so I think we achieved that goal, although I truly believe like we left a little bit out there. And I think, we were a really, really good football team. We went up to Sharando and played a tough Sharando team. We had some tough break with turnovers and things like that, where mistakes that maybe we hadn't made in earlier games, they happened to hit us all at a bad time. Sometimes like a 50-50 ball, like it didn't go our way. Injuries hit us late in the year. We lost a really good player in Wrigley Colling, who was an all-district defensive end and fullback. And just some different things that piled up on us at the end where it kind of worked against us late. And so there was that little bit of bitter taste in our mouth at the end of last year where we felt like, man, we could have accomplished more than we did. But that's motivation going into this year for these guys, right? Like we proved like, hey, man, we're here to stay and we're here to compete. We've proven that we are a good Seminole District football team. Now we got to be able to make that jump from good to great, right? And like personally, I believe like going from being an average, maybe even below average football team to a good football team, like that's one jump. Going from being a good football team to a great football team, honestly, that might even be tougher of a jump because you got to do everything right at that point. Everybody's got to be bought in. And to our guys' credit, I think they've done that, right? Like everything that we've asked of these guys, we've asked a lot of them, man, like lifted in January all the way through to the beginning of this season. Like that's a lot, man. You're asking a lot of these kids, but they've all bought in and they're doing it. And I'm excited for this season, man. I'm excited to see what they do out there.
You kind of just, Devin, go ahead.
And Coach, I wanted to ask, obviously you lose some big guys last year. You talked about Wrigley Colling. Logan Candace is another guy who was a all district O-line for y'all, right? But a lot of talent returning. You talked about Dax Rowland, Pearson Brooks, Charleston Harris, Peyton Jackson. Of course, Spencer Sloan, and the guy in the program right now is Slade Kesey or Kasey, however you want to say his name.
Slade Kesey,
Slade Kesey. So just talk about what those guys are going to mean to the success of the program this year and some other guys who can potentially step up for you.
Yeah, I mean, starting off with Slade, right? And like that guy set the tone for us really, really early in this off season. Last year we graduated 5 offensive linemen. So every guy that started games for us at offensive line, they graduated, with the exception of one. We had a sophomore that started in our playoff game due to some injuries and things like that. Chase Spraker, who's now starting for us as a junior. But so Slade, who was a tight end last year, like made the decision, like, I'm going to play offensive line this year because I know that's going to be a big need for us. And so I think he kind of set the tone early on where a guy is willing to make a team move like that and into a position where he's going to be really, really successful. Like it set the whole tone where everything that you preach as a coach, right? Like it's about the team. It's not about us. It's about, buying in for everybody else. Like that set the tone right there. And so from a leadership standpoint, doing that and then being a guy who can talk the talk and walk the walk and that he's there every day. He's the hardest worker in the weight room. Like when one of your best players is also your hardest worker, like that's really good, really good for the culture of your team. And then it's not just him, right? I mean, you mentioned some guys, Pearson Brooks, who every day that Slade can see is in the weight room. Pearson Brooks is in the weight room too, pushing him to be better, right? And they're setting the tone for everybody else in there. And then you got a guy like Thax Rowland, Spencer Sloan, who, throughout the spring they weren't around as much because they were playing lacrosse, but they're competing really well in lacrosse. And lacrosse had an awesome season, right? And those are all state. Thax was All-American in lacrosse, right? So kind of two sides of a different coin there, right? Like Sloan and Thax, they're off doing their thing in lacrosse, and then our guys are working their butt off in the weight room, and Thax and Spence, they're getting done what they need to in school, and then we're able to get everybody together in the summer, and it was man, we're just in the ground running, right? And then to add in guys like you mentioned, Charleston Harris, who had a big sophomore year for us, Peyton Jackson stepping in as filling big shoes for Dylan Marks, who graduated at the quarterback position. You got a guy, Cam Fox, who played a little bit of JV last year, played a little bit of varsity last year, caught a touchdown in playoff games, coming in playing fullback for us now. And then, to kind of pull it all together, the guys up front, man, we had like I said, graduated all five, but man, we brought up a really, really good JV offensive line group. I mentioned Jason Ayers earlier, who was my head JV coach. Well, they went undefeated in 2024 on the JV level and dominated some people. I mean, they got after some people really, really good. And it was a lot of those guys up front that were getting after it. So to have them come up on the varsity level now and kind of have a little bit of swag and a little bit of attitude, man, we're ready to get after it up here on varsity too. It's just been, to have a guy like Slade step in and set the tone, and then all those other guys buy into it too, man. It just it's really cool to be able to coach a group like that who is excited about playing for each other, playing with each other. And again, we have a saying in our program, it's about us. It's not about me. It's not about JT Cruz or Slade Gassi or anybody like that. It's about us coming together to work together. And they've all bought in on that, man. It's truly we got a really good group with a lot of individual talent, but man, they are as excited when somebody else makes a play as they are when they make a play.
Absolutely. And kind of going into, just the recruiting side of things that we were talking about a little earlier. So when it comes to a guy like Slade or any other guy who's getting recruited on your team, I mean, what is your role, especially when somebody's getting, D1 talent or D1 interest like Slade is getting? What is your role in terms of the recruitment process there?
Honestly, it's just pounding the table for those guys. I mean, you guys talk to a lot of different high school coaches out there, and I'm sure they're all kind of saying the same thing, but I truly think it is harder now for a high school player to get recruited than maybe it's ever been, just because you got guys in college that are bouncing around in the transfer portal. Guys are staying in college longer now than maybe they did in the past. And, a guy who maybe he was a scholarship guy at Virginia Tech, well, maybe didn't work out there, and now he's a scholarship guy at William & Mary. Well, now that's eating up a spot that William & Mary would have used on a high school guy, right? Just a lot of different things like that coming together to make it really hard as a high school player to find an opportunity. And so when you got a guy like Slade or Spence or Thax or Pearson or all these guys who are interested in playing college football at the next level, my job as a coach is when these guys come through, I'm going to pound the table for them, and I'm going to let them know, these are guys that you need to be, they're going to make your program better, right? I'm never going to lie to a coach. I'm never going to say a guy who maybe isn't the best in the weight room. I'm not going to say that guy, oh, you got to take him because he's a weight room warrior. But all of these guys are weight room warriors. I don't have to lie about them, man. They're all phenomenal kids. All got great GPAs. They're all great football players. They all work their butts off. And so, as a head coach, that's honestly I'm their biggest cheerleader in that regard of pushing them to these coaches and trying to make sure that they know the caliber of character that they have, the caliber of player that they are, what they're going to bring to the table from a leadership standpoint. They're going to check all of those boxes and just trying to push it as hard as I can. And if there's any stone left unturned, I'm going to make sure I turn that stone over and these guys know about it.
Coach, hitting on what you just talked about as far as recruiting and offers coming up from those big D1 schools, I mean, just kind of curious what your thoughts are. Do you foresee maybe the FCS becoming more like a feeder system for those big programs where they kind of trade, transfers here and there, or maybe take the FCS transfers after a couple of years? Or how do you see that working out next years?
I mean, honestly, it's the Wild West right now, right? Nobody knows how any of this stuff is going to shake out. And when these college coaches come through, whether it's, the big time guys at these Power 5 schools or the FCS level guys or all of them, talking to all those guys, none of them have an answer for how things are going to go because none of them know. Just this past year, they're talking about passing scholarship limits and now reducing walk-ons and just things that like it's all brand new at this point, right? So nobody really knows how it's going to shake out. So like if I have to look in the crystal ball and try and predict, my prediction is probably as good as anybody else's, but like truthfully, it seems like every level is kind of becoming a feeder level for the next one, right? Like, you got the FCS schools. Well, they're recruiting the All-American that played in the ODAC, right? Like they're going to call that guy and see if he wants to go play for him. And then that guy who's an All-American at the ODAC, like he probably, he's a Division III player. I played Division III football. I had student loans. Like that guy's got an opportunity to go to school for free. He's probably going to take it, right? Well, now that's one less spot in the, at the FCS level for a high school kid. And so now that kid may end up in the ODAC. And that's, talking with, guys that I know in college. Paul Crowley is the head coach at Christopher Newport. Know him really well, coaching them for a long time. And once all this transfer portal started, happening, I remember talking to him. He was like, man, I'm getting guys now that I wouldn't even be able to talk to, 5 years ago. Like these guys are slipping through the cracks and it's great for him. And, maybe he can keep them. And they've done a really good job of retaining talent there. But it seems like it may become a situation where, maybe he's a 1-year guy and we might lose him after that. Maybe he's a 2-year guy. And so some schools buy into that. Some schools know like, hey, we're a transitional program, right? If they're, if they're good enough to play at the SEC, like we might get them for 1 year and then they're going to go to the SEC. Or if they're an SEC washout, we might get them and hey, this is their chance to prove that they should be back in the SEC. Some coaches, some programs, like that's the direction that they're going. I think everybody's going to kind of develop a different strategy, but honestly, I think it's one of those things where like, you can't just try and do it the way that it's always going to be done. I mean, I think we've seen that, the programs that try and fight the transfer portal and the NIL and all that stuff, they're the ones that are kind of getting left behind for better or for worse. It's tough. It's tough for the high school guys, particularly guys like, I got a tight end in Spencer Sloan, who he's a really good tight end. I mean, the kid's 6'6", 240 pounds. He's also like a 4.5 GPA and wants to be a doctor. And so he's got to kind of juggle that, like, I don't want to do that college process where maybe I'm going to go to 3 different schools in 4 years. Like that might be the typical avenue now for a high level Division I player. Well, he wants to be a doctor. Like he wants to go to school. Like that's his number one thing. And so it's finding a good situation for him where maybe it's not that top level school where you might have to go to a FCS and find a way to transfer up there. Like it might just be finding a great home and being there for 4 years and going that route. And that's okay too. Like ultimately, isn't that what college is supposed to be for? I don't know, man. So like it could go in a lot of different directions. Honestly, my idea is probably as good as yours.
Yeah. Well, Coach, tell him it's possible. I mean, Devin got a PhD, got his doctorate, and he was all Lynchburg College, all flag football team. So he can do both.
he's the intramural champion, man. There you go.
I want to ask you, you talked about that Sherando loss and how tough it was. You personally did. How long do you look at these games after they're played and, especially a playoff game? Or are you like, hey, let's take a time off? Or are you like, hey, let's get back into the weight room, let's get things going, get ready for next year?
The playoff ones are always tough, man. Like the ones in the, early on, like you always have that next week to look forward to, right? So if it doesn't go your way on Friday, like I'm usually mad on Friday night. My wife, she don't want to be around me because I'm in a bad mood, that sort of thing. By the time Saturday rolls around, I've gotten the film for the next opponent, so I can kind of like dial in there and tunnel vision and kind of forget about last Friday and move on to what we need to. Whereas that playoff one, like that's it, right? Like all I can do now is just watch the film from that game and just be mad about, things that didn't go our way and things that we didn't do from an execution standpoint, like things that I should have coached better. So after a playoff loss, it's, I don't know, man, probably a couple weeks. Like you don't want to watch it at first and then you end up watching it and then you get mad and you like, it probably took me like 3 times to watch it through the whole time because like I get a little bit of ways into it. I'm like, I just got to turn this off and go do something else. But then like January rolls around, right? And we're getting back in the weight room with the new crew and the new guys, and we're starting to pencil in like, hey, I can see this guy going here, and I can see this kid stepping up in this position, and it's like, all right, now we're back at it, man. We're ready to roll. Like it's all eyes pointed forward at this point. So it takes a little while to get over it, right? But at the end of the day, like it's all about moving forward in high school. Like one way or another, those guys are going to graduate. You got to replace them. You got to move on to the next thing.
I want to ask you about your day-to-day activities or duties. You're a former offensive lineman. You played there at Brookville and played in college. But how much do you pay attention to the line there as a head coach, or do you you have an offensive line coach that takes care of that stuff, and you kind of look at the broad side of everything? And then also, I see where you guys put up some points last year. I mean, how involved are you into the playmaking decision, and what's your philosophy on offense? Are you getting the ball in space? Are you more like the 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of philosophy? What's the philosophy there?
So first off, I am an offensive line guy, and I have an offensive line background. And for the majority of the time that I was at EC Glass, I coached the offensive line. I am lucky enough at JF that I have a phenomenal, and I mean phenomenal, offensive line coach, and David Harlow, who does as good a job as anybody out there that you're going to find. So like, I'm not as involved in the offensive line group as maybe like I wish I was, just because I love coaching offensive line. Like, sometimes he'll show film and I'll just kind of sitting in there on the meetings if we're finished up with the skill guys. I'm like, man, I just miss being in here with the O-line. It's like, it's a special group, man. It's a special thing. It's 5 guys all working together with no ego, and they're just trying to do their job and communicate like, it's just fun, man. It's fun coaching footwork, all that stuff. But Harlow does such a good job that like, I don't need to do that. I can spend my time elsewhere. And so from an offensive standpoint, I call the plays, kind of design the game plan, that sort of thing. Harlow and I work together as far as what we like in the run game and how we're going to block different fronts and that sort of thing. So it's a collaborative effort from that standpoint. And then on Fridays when I'm calling the game, I'm always in constant communication with him and my wide receivers coach, Randy Nichols, about, hey, Harlow, what do we like in the run game here? What are we thinking in the pass game, Coach Nichols, that sort of thing. So it's like, I'm calling the plays, but it's all of us working together collaboratively, starting on Sunday with our meetings and then all the way throughout practice. And then from an offensive philosophy standpoint, we're kind of unique on offense. When I first got to JF, we were going to be a spread team and try and throw the ball a little bit. And it just that was not the mentality of our kids. That wasn't what they're hard-nosed kids, man. And so the more time that I spent around them, the longer that I coached them, really about midway through year 2, it was like, man, we're going to go in a different direction. One thing that I noticed early in year 2 and even late in year 1, when we were at our best, it was when we were incorporating misdirection in the run game. So we were kind of a spread team. So it'd be like if we were jet sweeping one way and then had a counter back the other way or a power off of that jet sweep, like those were always our biggest plays. And so it was like, all right, well, let's just build our whole offense around that. And so we do a lot of motion and fast pitches on the edge to kind of stretch the defense horizontally. And then we have a lot of counters going back the other way off of that, or interior runs and powers off tackle and things like that. So predominantly based around the run game and kind of setting the tone there and being able to attack horizontally and vertically there. And then based off of how the defense reacts, like that's going to set up the passing game for us. And so it's cool in that, like, calling a game, I can see like, okay, well, we're going to run this rocket sweep and we're going to get the ball on the edge. Okay, well, the defense is doing this to take it away. That's going to set up my next play call. And so it's all kind of an if-then thing, and we're all working together between me, Coach Nichols, Harlow, and my head JV coach, Coach Ayers, who's in the booth for us. Like, we have certain things that we're looking at on Friday to see, like, okay, because they're doing this, that's going to set up this. And so it's kind of trying to plan that out throughout the week. How do I think they're going to react? And then how can we incorporate that on Fridays?
I got Coach. I just want to ask, so kind of, and Gregor, if you want to go back to anything, we can. I just want to ask a little bit about next season. I mean, just looking at the schedule for this coming up year, obviously y'all have a gauntlet. I mean, just Gretna, Mount Airy. I want to ask about that one here in a sec. At Mount Airy, LCA, at Glass, Rustburg, Brookville, who's got some talent this year, Heritage, and of course, I mean, Amherst is on there too, but. How do you prepare just week in and week out for, I mean, basically a murderer's row of a schedule, as well as, how did that Mount Airy game kind of come about?
Yeah, so starting off with the murderer's row, man, that's what you get when you play in the Seminole. Like, like week in, week out, man, it's gonna be tough. It doesn't matter who's on there. Like, you got to show up and you got to be ready to play. One thing that I've really tried to be conscious about throughout preseason and now that we're even into game, the week prepping for game 1 is trying to cut back on just the amount of time that we're spending on the practice field. In the past, I'd be like a 2.5 hour guy. I'm trying to cut it down to 2 hours now, just knowing that, like, we're planning for a long season. And so the fewer reps that we can put on these guys throughout the week of practice, that's going to pay dividends down the road when we're playing that tough Seminole District schedule. And then, I mean, it's tough out of conference too. Like, we got Gretna, man, and they're as athletic as anybody that you're going to play. They throw the balls better, as good as anybody that you're going to see out there. And so that's always a tough test for us week 1. And then Stanton River, who's kind of on the other end of the spectrum, where they're going to be physical. They're going to play good defense. They're going to try and run the ball right at you. And then Mount Airy, that was kind of an interesting one. It was a late pickup for us. Traditionally, we've played Halifax. So every year that I've been at JF, Halifax has been our third out-of-conference game. And just through like kind of a quirk of communication and things like that, we thought we still had that game, and turns out they had scheduled somebody else. And so we found out really late in kind of the cycle that we got to find a game. We had them scheduled for week 3. They had picked up another week 3 opponent. And so like, I'm scrambling, I'm calling coaches. My AD is on the phone calling coaches, trying to figure out, hey, who can we play, man? Who out there that still has an open week? Well, it's so late. Like everybody around here, they've already got their games. They've signed their contracts and everything. North Carolina, they do redistricting a little bit different than Virginia, or like reclassification, I should say, as far as like single A, double A, triple A, that sort of thing. And so they just went through a reclassification cycle. And so Mount Airy, I think, classed up from what they had been. So they lost a good bit of their schedule. So they were looking for a lot of games. And I just so happened to stumble across like a post in some forum on the North Carolina version of the VHSL. I can't even remember the name of their governing body. This is how deep I was looking to try and find games out there. Like I'm on, the VHSL message board, the North Carolina one. Saw they had an opening. We called their AD and got the contract signed, and there we go, man. We're going down there week 3, and then they're coming to us in 2026.
Coach, I also want to talk about Stanton River, a little bit of rivalry game there in Bedford County. I think Stanton River last year played well above what their record was last year. I feel like they, towards the end of the season, they're playing in overtime games with like Bird and Fleming. So you can come up with that rivalry too there in Bedford County.
Yeah, I mean, and they played us tough, man. That was one of the tougher games that we had all year. I want to say the final score was like 17-14. So it was a really tight game. I remember that. Defensive battle back and forth. And like, that's what you get with those guys. And of course, because it's the Bedford County rivalry, these kids have all played each other like throughout youth league, all the way up. They all know each other. They all compete against each other in every other sport. And so there's some familiarity there between the kids, but man, they're tough, hard-nosed group over there. And so they're always going to play solid defense. They're always going to be physical in the run game. And kind of that's how we see ourselves too. And truthfully, I think every year that I've played against Stanton River, we didn't play them our first year because of the COVID scheduling and all that stuff. But year 2, year 3, year 4, into year 5, like it's been tight every year, man, tight. And it's one of those things with a rivalry where it could easily go either way. And I don't expect it to be any different this year.
Coach, looking at a broader view of the whole JF program, how involved are you with like the youth, the middle school, and the JV programs on a daily basis or weekly basis?
Yeah, so JV very intimately involved there. In the sense, now I have a phenomenal coach in Coach Jason Ayers, who is so good that it can be one of those things where it's like, Jason, this is your program, man. You run it. The good news is that him and I are like we spend like he teaches in the PE department. I'm in the PE department, so we see each other every day. So JV is they mimic us. Pretty much 90% of what we're doing offensively and defensively, they're doing at that program as well. Little tweaks here and there to fit their personnel versus our personnel, that sort of thing. But like they are running our schemes. Middle school has been more of a challenge because I've had to go through a couple different coaches down there just to guys not working in the building. And so oftentimes, like, I'm not able to pay these guys bills. They're out there, they're working real jobs and they'll get a promotion. And so their hours change or whatever the case may be. So I've got a new middle school coach this year in Travis Sandvik who's doing a really good job. And again, is bought into what we're doing schematically, offensively and defensively, and is installing all that stuff and getting the middle school program up to speed as well as our JV and our varsity program is. The youth level, we do a youth camp every year and try and incorporate as many of our current players, as far as teaching and coaching the youth players so that they can kind of get a feel for like, this is where I want to be. I want to be that guy, 5, 6, 7 years down the line who's now coaching the next level. That is an area that I'd like to get more involved in. And it's just hard. Like being a head coach is you wear a lot of different hats, man. And I got 2 young kids at home. And so trying to find time to also incorporate the youth aspect into that's an area where I've got to find a time. I got to make time for it and get more involved down there. Not to say that they're not doing a great job, because we have a phenomenal youth program who's doing it really, really well. I'd love to be able to go down there and like get them running our offensive and defensive schemes and things like that. We're just not quite there yet from a time standpoint for me, right? Like I got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old at home. I got to go home and run around with those kids. Hopefully as they get older and a little bit more independent, I can spend some more time with our youth programs.
Coach, I'm sure the goals have changed since year 1 to year 5 now. What's the goal going into this season? Is it playoff or bust, or is it you set like more kind of individual goals for each game?
Yeah, honestly, man, like our goal, I think our ceiling has changed year over year. But our ultimate goal has not changed. And that's like to be the best version of the 2025 JF football team that we can be, right? Like whatever our potential is, I want to hit the very, very peak of that potential, right? And the only way you can do that is 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 rep at a time, like putting everything that you have into it from full focus, full attention to detail, everything, right? Like, if we leave a rep out there and we don't get everything out of that rep that we could, well, now we're not hitting our potential, right? And so like that's the overall goal for us. So it's no like, it's we're making it to this round or bust or whatever it is. There's none of that. It's week in, week out. I want to be the best football team that we can be. Like, and sometimes you may run up against a team that is just flat out better than you, right? Well, as long as I know that we played as well as we possibly could play, like I can sleep well on that one. But usually that's not how it goes. Every game over the past 2 years that we've lost, I can look back and say like, man, we beat ourselves, right? Like foolish penalties or foolish turnovers or things like that. So finding a way to eliminate those so that we can hit the very ceiling of our potential, like that's the goal for this year.
And last one for me to round it out. JF beats Gretna on Friday night if they do what?
Play a very clean, disciplined football game. Find a way to contain a very, very explosive Gretna football team who can go up and down the field in a hurry. Kind of the thing that we've been preaching to our guys is like, make them snap it again. Make them snap it again. Like they're probably going to catch us once or twice, right? They're going to get a big play. That's the nature of their team. We got to line up. We got to make them snap it again on defense. And then offensively, can we execute the way that we're capable of executing? Can we avoid foolish penalties, procedural penalties, false starts, holds, things of that nature, things that we can control? Can we eliminate turnovers? And then no catastrophic mistakes on special teams, right? Like let's not boot the ball right to one of their best athletes on punt team, right? Let's find a way to have great coverage and keep it away from some of their better players on special teams. No block kicks, none of that. And then find a way to swing the game for us on special teams. Maybe it's we block one of their kicks or we set up a big return in the kickoff return game or the punt return game. So that would be the big thing, right? Control and execute on offense, contain them on defense, no catastrophic mistakes on special teams.
Well, Coach, I do like it. I know you got some film review to get back to. We do appreciate your time. I know we went over the time limit we said we were going to do, but we just appreciate your time. I mean, it's a great conversation we've had, and I think Devin had something to say.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say, best of luck, Coach. We're looking forward to that game on Friday night, and I'll be there personally. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in person, and wishing you the best of luck this weekend. I'm excited to see some good football here.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you guys having me. I enjoyed this, man. Looking forward to week 1.
Yes, sir.
Coach JT Cruz there at Jefferson Forest High School. Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Coach.
District 2 Sports wants to thank each of these coaches for coming on and joining us and talking football. We do appreciate their time, and we look forward to each of them doing well in the regular season. I know that Coach Bradley and Coach Cruz will face each other at some point, but we hope they win every other game. But thank you, fans, for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. And please like and subscribe to all of our stuff on Facebook and Twitter if you can. Thank you, guys.